WENY Political Analyst Dr. Jim Twombly in studio today to talk about a proposed increase to the size of the U.S. House of Representatives. Jim, Harvard political theorist Danielle Allen wrote a recent op-ed in the Washington Post and suggested it was time to consider the possibility of expanding the size of the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, the House is currently set at 435 members, and they represent states based on the population. We all know this. Now, to many of us, that would seem like a very large number for a legislative body. The lower chamber of the New York legislature, the state assembly, has 150 members, and the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives is 203. So, Jim, why would some people think that 435 is not sufficiently large?
It comes down to the ratio of representatives to people represented. When the U.S. Constitution was first adopted in 1788, the U.S. House of Representatives was one representative to 30,000 people. Today, it's approximately 1 to 762,000 people, and it is projected to go to 1 to 874,000 by about 2040. And for the New York State Assembly, that figure currently is around 1 to 132,000, and for Pennsylvania, it's 1 to 63,000. Allen points out that the original intention was that the U.S. House would grow in size as the population grew, and for a long time it did. The reason it stopped was basically the physical size of the chamber. It needs to house its own members, plus the Senate and guests for joint sessions of Congress. Since Congress passed the Permanent Apportionment Act, the number of members has been static, except when Alaska and Hawaii were admitted, and the number increased to 437 until the next census could apportion those seats among the 435.
Okay, now why would this be a good idea, especially at a time when public trust in government and Congress is at a particularly low point?
Well, Allen suggests that the feeling of discontent, or disconnect rather, between constituents and representatives created by the huge number of people represented by each member is one of the reasons behind that lack of trust. In practical terms, think of this from the perspective of an individual member of Congress. That is, it was hard enough for members to know what their constituents were thinking when the ratio was less daunting. But how can we expect them to figure out how 750,000 of us thinks about public policy preferences at any time? Thus, sometimes the voices that get heard are the more extreme or the special interests.
Okay, and now what would it take to accomplish what Allen is suggesting, and is it even possible?
Well, I've personally advocated for increasing the size of the House since I began teaching about Congress over 30 years ago, and I have built these caveats into my class discussion. First, it would take only an act of Congress signed into law by the President to set a higher limit on membership. Second, it may require the building of a new physical space or renovation of the existing one to fit the additional members. Third, Congress would likely have to overcome some vigorous opposition from a skeptical public and from a set of special interests that might feel disadvantaged by the larger size. They would need to hire more lobbyists and spend more money.
Okay, well, we don't know if it will ever happen, but an interesting discussion nonetheless.
Indeed.
All right, Jim, thank you so much.